Hi, I'm Cooper. And when my mom called me at 2 a.m. whispering, dizzy, nauseous, help me, I rushed to her apartment only to discover pill bottles hidden behind the bathroom mirror, medications she'd never been prescribed. She kept saying, I'm fine, just a stomach bug. But her trembling hands and the strange bitter taste she described told a different story. My chest tightened with a sickening realization as I found my brother Aaron's fingerprints all over her medicine cabinet, literally. He'd been coming over daily, helping with her meals, her vitamins, her care. The man I'd trusted with our mother's well-being had been systematically poisoning her for months. And by sunrise, when I confronted him with the evidence, his smug smile shattered into pure panic. How could you do this to your own mother? But the real question was, how far had this gone, and how long did she have left? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The call came at 2:17 a.m. on a Thursday in late September. I was half asleep in my apartment in Brookhaven when my phone lit up the darkness. Mom's name flashed across the screen, and my stomach immediately knotted. She never called this late. Never. Cooper? Her voice was weak, strained, barely above a whisper. I sat up instantly, adrenaline flooding my system. Mom? What's wrong? I'm so dizzy, everything's spinning. I've been throwing up for hours. She paused, and I could hear her labored breathing. Can you come? I don't want to bother you, but I need help. 20 minutes later, I was speeding down empty streets toward her apartment in Ashford Heights, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The city was quiet at this hour, streetlights casting long shadows across the pavement. My mind raced through possibilities. Food poisoning, flu, something worse. When I arrived at her building, I took the stairs 2 at a time, ignoring the elevator entirely. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor, and by the time I reached her door, my heart was pounding not just from exertion but from fear. I used my spare key to let myself in. Mom? I called out, stepping into the dimly lit living room. In here, came her weak response from the bedroom. I found her lying on her bed, still fully clothed, a wastebasket positioned next to her. The room smelled faintly of sickness and something else, something I couldn't quite place. Chemical. Bitter. Her face was pale, almost gray in the low light, and when she looked at me, her eyes seemed unfocused, struggling to track my movement. How long have you been like this? I asked, sitting on the edge of her bed and placing my hand on her forehead. She was clammy, cold sweat beading across her skin. Started around dinner time, she said softly. I thought it would pass, but it just kept getting worse. I grabbed my phone, ready to call an ambulance, but she reached out weakly and touched my arm. No, please. I don't want to make a fuss. It's probably just something I ate. Aaron brought over dinner earlier. Maybe the chicken was off. Aaron, my brother. The mention of his name made something twist in my gut, though at that moment I couldn't articulate why. He'd been coming around more often lately, playing the dutiful son, bringing groceries, cooking meals, helping Mom with household tasks. I'd been grateful for it, honestly. My job as a project manager at a tech firm kept me busy, and knowing Aaron was checking in on her had eased some of my guilt about not being around more. What did he bring? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. His special chicken soup. You know how he makes it with all those herbs and spices. She smiled weakly. He's been so attentive lately. Comes by almost every day. I helped her sit up slightly, propping pillows behind her back. Do you still feel nauseous? She nodded. It comes in waves. And my head, Cooper. It feels like it's full of cotton. I can't think straight. I'm taking you to the emergency room, I said firmly, but again she protested. Let's just wait until morning. See how I feel. If it's still bad, we'll go then. Promise. Against my better judgment, I agreed to stay the night, setting up camp on her couch with my phone nearby in case we needed to make that emergency call. But sleep wouldn't come. Something felt wrong, deeply wrong, in a way I couldn't articulate. I found myself wandering through her apartment, checking on her every 20 minutes, my unease growing with each passing hour. Around 4 in the morning, I went to her bathroom to get a cool cloth for her forehead. That's when I noticed the medicine cabinet door was slightly ajar. I opened it fully, expecting to see her usual medications, The blood pressure pills she'd been on for years, some over-the-counter pain relievers, maybe vitamins. What I found made my blood run cold. There were at least a dozen pill bottles I'd never seen before. I pulled them out one by one, reading the labels with increasing alarm. Medications for anxiety, sleep aids, antihistamines in doses that seemed excessive, supplements I'd never heard of. None of them had Mom's name on the prescription label. In fact, some had no labels at all, just plain orange bottles with white caps. My hands started to shake as I lined them up on the bathroom counter. Behind where they'd been stashed, I found a small notebook, the kind you'd buy at any convenience store. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. It was a log. Dates, times, dosages, all in Aaron's handwriting. I recognized it immediately from years of reading his barely legible scrawl on birthday cards and grocery lists. The entries went back months. Morning vitamin, 2 pills. Evening tea, 3 drops. Dinner supplement, 1 capsule. What vitamins? What drops? What supplements? I stood there in the harsh fluorescent light of the bathroom, the notebook trembling in my hands, as the pieces began assembling themselves into a picture I didn't want to see. Aaron's sudden attentiveness, his insistence on preparing Mom's meals, her gradual decline over the past few months, something I'd attributed to normal aging, to stress, to anything but this. I pulled out my phone and started photographing everything. The bottles, the notebook, every page with its meticulous entries. My hands were shaking so badly I had to brace my elbows against the counter to keep the images from blurring. A sound from the bedroom made me freeze. Mom was stirring, calling my name weakly. I quickly gathered the bottles, the notebook, and shoved them into my jacket pockets. I couldn't let her see them yet. Not until I understood what I was dealing with. When I returned to her bedside with the cool cloth, she was trying to sit up again. "I need water," she whispered. "My mouth tastes so bitter." Bitter. That word struck me like a physical blow. I went to her kitchen, filled a glass with water, and brought it back to her. As she sipped slowly, I watched her with new eyes, seeing not just my mother but a victim. Someone who'd been systematically harmed by someone she trusted. "Mom," I said carefully, sitting beside her again. "These episodes, how often have they been happening?" She thought for a moment, her brow furrowing with the effort. "I don't know. Maybe once or twice a week for the past couple months. Aaron says it's just my age. That I need to be more careful about what I eat, Aaron says. Aaron says." How many times had she repeated that phrase to me over recent months, dismissing her own concerns because her son, her trusted son, had told her it was nothing? "Has Aaron been giving you any new medications? Any vitamins or supplements?" She nodded slowly. "He said they'd help with my energy levels. Make me feel younger. He's very knowledgeable about health stuff, you know. Does all that research online." I felt rage building in my chest, hot and suffocating. But I forced myself to remain calm, to keep my voice level. "Where does he keep these supplements?" "In the bathroom cabinet. He organizes them for me, tells me when to take what. It's easier that way." I was getting confused with all my regular medications. The fury threatened to overwhelm me, but I breathed through it. I couldn't lose control. Not now. Mom needed me focused, strategic, clear-headed. As dawn began to break through her bedroom window, casting pale gray light across the room, I made a decision. I would get to the bottom of this. I would protect her. And if Aaron had done what every instinct in my body was now screaming he'd done, I would make sure he faced consequences. Mom had finally fallen into an uneasy sleep, her breathing shallow but steady. I sat beside her bed, the pill bottles heavy in my pockets, and allowed myself one moment of raw emotion. My brother, my own blood. How could he? But the time for questions would come later. Right now, I needed answers. And I knew exactly where to start. The morning sun climbed higher over Ashford Heights, and I sat at Mom's kitchen table with a cup of coffee I couldn't bring myself to drink. Everything looked normal. The cheerful yellow curtains she'd hung last spring, the ceramic fruit bowl Aaron had given her for Mother's Day, the collection of family photos on the refrigerator held by magnets shaped like vegetables. Normal. Except nothing was normal anymore. I pulled out my phone and started researching the medications I'd found. Each search result made my chest tighten further. The antihistamines in high doses could cause dizziness, confusion, nausea. The sleep aids could create dependency and cognitive impairment. Some of the supplements, when combined incorrectly, could cause severe gastrointestinal distress. And that was just what I could identify from the partial labels. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. My mind drifted back to how this had all started, how we'd gotten to this point. Aaron and I had never been particularly close growing up. He was 4 years older, and we'd occupied different orbits in the family system. He'd been the rebellious one, constantly at odds with Dad before the divorce, bouncing between jobs and cities in his 20s. I'd been the stable one, the one who went to college, got the decent job, called home every Sunday. When Dad died 3 years ago, something shifted in Aaron. He'd shown up at the funeral looking gaunt and claiming he wanted to make amends, to be more present for family. Mom had been overjoyed. She'd always held out hope that her eldest son would find his way, settle down, become the man she knew he could be. At first, his transformation seemed genuine. He got a job at a pharmaceutical warehouse in Lakewood, about 30 minutes from Mom's place. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. He started visiting Mom regularly, helping with yard work, fixing things around her apartment. I'd been relieved, honestly. The burden of being the only attentive offspring had weighed on me, especially as Mom got older and needed more support. But now, with the clarity of hindsight and the evidence literally weighing down my jacket, I could see the pattern I'd missed. Aaron's attentiveness had coincided exactly with Mom's decline. 6 months ago, she'd been active, sharp, volunteering at the community center twice a week. Then the headaches started. The fatigue, the confusion, the dizzy spells. And Aaron had been right there, explaining it all away. It's her age, Cooper. People slow down. She's probably not eating right when we're not around. Maybe she needs more vitamins, better supplements. I believed him because I'd wanted to believe him. Because the alternative, the truth that was now staring me in the face, was too monstrous to contemplate. My phone buzzed. A text from Aaron. Hey, checking in on Mom. Haven't heard from her this morning. Everything okay? The audacity of it made my hands curl into fists. He was checking in, making sure his handiwork was progressing as planned, or maybe covering his tracks, establishing his alibi as the concerned son. I typed back carefully. She had a rough night. I stayed over. She's resting now. His response came quickly. Want me to come by? I can bring that herbal tea she likes. Herbal tea. I thought about the notebook entry I'd photographed. Evening tea, 3 drops. What was in that tea? No need, I replied. I've got it handled. A pause, then, you sure? I don't mind. It's no trouble. I could almost hear the edge in his digital voice, the need to maintain access, to keep control of the situation. I'm sure. I'll let you know if anything changes. I set the phone down and went back to check on Mom. She was awake, looking slightly better in the morning light, though still pale and weak. How are you feeling? I asked, sitting in the chair I'd pulled up beside her bed. A little better, she said, managing a small smile. Still queasy, but the room isn't spinning anymore. Good, that's good. I paused, choosing my words carefully. Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. She looked at me with concern, sensing the seriousness in my tone. Of course, sweetheart. What is it? When did you start feeling unwell? Not just these acute episodes, but when did you first notice something was off? She thought for a moment, her fingers plucking absently at the blanket. I suppose it was around April. I remember, because I had to cancel my volunteer shift at the center. I just felt so tired, like I couldn't get out of bed. Aaron said I was probably doing too much, that I needed to slow down. April. 6 months ago. Right when Aaron's visits had become daily occurrences. And the medications Aaron's been giving you, do you know what they're all for? He explained it once, but honestly, Cooper, it's all so confusing. There are so many pills and capsules. He said they'd help with my energy, my memory, my overall health. He reads all these articles online about nutrition and supplements for people my age. The pharmaceutical warehouse. Aaron had access to medications, to supplements, to substances most people couldn't easily obtain. And he had the knowledge, or at least enough knowledge, to be dangerous. Has he ever asked you about your finances? About your will or any legal documents? Mom's expression shifted, a flicker of something, confusion maybe, or realization. Well, yes, actually. Last month he mentioned I should update my will. Said it had been years since Dad passed and things should be reviewed. He even offered to help me find an attorney. My stomach turned. There it was. The motive crystallizing like ice. Mom wasn't wealthy, but she owned her apartment outright, had a decent pension, some savings from Dad's life insurance. Nothing extravagant, but enough to be worth killing for if you were desperate or greedy enough. Did you update it? No, she said slowly. I told him I'd think about it. Something about the way he brought it up felt odd. Too insistent. She looked at me with growing alarm. Cooper, what's this about? You're scaring me. I took her hand gently. Mom, I found some things in your bathroom cabinet. Medications that aren't prescribed to you. A notebook with Aaron's handwriting tracking what he's been giving you. Her face went white. What are you saying? I'm saying I think Aaron has been making you sick, on purpose. The words hung in the air between us, terrible and undeniable. I watched her process them, saw the denial, the disbelief, the dawning horror cross her features in rapid succession. No, she whispered. He wouldn't. He's my son. Your brother. I know. I don't want it to be true either. But Mom, look at the timeline. Your illness started exactly when his visits became regular. The symptoms you're having match the medications I found. And there's a notebook documenting everything he's been giving you. Tears welled in her eyes. But why? Why would he do this to me? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. I squeezed her hand. Right now, we need to focus on getting you better and keeping you safe. No more medications or supplements from Aaron. Nothing he prepares for you. Nothing he brings over. Do you understand? She nodded, tears streaming down her face now. I can't believe this. I don't want to believe this. I know. But until we know for certain what's been happening, we have to be careful. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Aaron. Just finished my shift. Heading over with some fresh soup. Be there in 20. My pulse quickened. 20 minutes. I looked at Mom, at her tear-stained face and trembling hands, and made a decision. He's coming over, I said. We need to act normal. Can you do that? She wiped her eyes with shaking hands. I think so. But Cooper, what are you going to do? I'm going to watch him. Document everything. And then I'm going to stop him. The next 20 minutes felt like hours. I helped Mom to the living room, settled her on the couch with a blanket, positioned myself where I could observe everything. My phone was ready in my pocket, set to record. The pill bottles and notebook were hidden in my car, photographed and catalogued. When Aaron's key turned in the lock. When had she given him a key? I forced my expression into something neutral. Something that wouldn't betray the rage simmering beneath my skin. He walked in carrying a thermal container, his face arranged in an expression of concern that now looked grotesque to me, a mask hiding something rotten underneath. Hey, Mom, he said warmly, moving to her side. Cooper said you had a rough night. I brought your favorite soup. I watched him like a hawk, noting every movement, every gesture, every word. And as he opened that container, releasing steam and the smell of chicken and herbs, I saw him reach into his jacket pocket, saw his hand emerge with something small clutched in his palm. Let me just add a little extra seasoning, he said, his back partially turned to us both. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the moment like a blade, I think Mom's had enough of your special recipes for now. He froze, his hand suspended over the soup container, and when he turned to look at me, I saw it. Just for a second. The mask slipped, and something cold and calculating looked out from behind my brother's eyes. The silence in Mom's living room stretched taut as a wire ready to snap. Aaron's hand hovered over the soup container, that small something still clutched in his fingers. Our eyes locked, and I saw him calculating, weighing his options, deciding how to play this. What are you talking about? He said finally, his voice light but with an edge underneath. I'm just trying to help. Mom loves this soup. Put down whatever's in your hand, I said quietly. Right now. Mom looked between us, confusion and fear warring on her face. Cooper, what's happening? Aaron laughed, but it sounded forced. Artificial. Your brother's being paranoid. I don't know what's gotten into him. He moved to pour whatever he was holding into the soup. I crossed the room in 3 long strides and grabbed his wrist. I said, "Put it down." We stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills, my hand wrapped around his wrist, his face inches from mine. I could feel the tension radiating from him, could see the fury building behind his eyes. "Let go of me," he said through gritted teeth. "Open your hand. Cooper, you're being crazy. Open your hand." For a moment, I thought he might actually swing at me. His free hand clenched into a fist, his jaw tightened, and I braced myself for impact. But then, Mom's voice cut through the tension. "Aaron, please. Just show us what you have." Something in her tone, the fear mixed with desperate hope that this was all a misunderstanding, made him deflate slightly. His fingers uncurled, revealing 2 small white tablets. "They're just vitamins," he said. "Extra B12. Mom's levels were low." I snatched them from his palm before he could close his hand again. "Really?" "Because Mom's doctor never mentioned low B12 levels to me." "Maybe because you're not the one taking her to appointments." Aaron shot back, pulling his wrist free from my grip. "I'm here every day, Cooper." "Where are you?" "Busy with your fancy job. Your apartment across town. I'm the one who actually takes care of her." "Is that what you call it?" The words came out sharper than I'd intended. "Taking care of her?" "Boys, please," Mom said weakly from the couch. "Don't fight." But I couldn't stop now. The dam had broken, and everything I'd been holding back since finding those pill bottles came flooding out. "I found your stash, Aaron, the medications in the bathroom cabinet. The notebook with your handwriting documenting every dose you've been giving her." His face went through a rapid series of changes. Shock, anger, then something like panic before settling into defensive indignation. "You went through Mom's stuff? That's a violation of her privacy." "I went through the stuff you put there. None of those medications are prescribed to her. They're supplements, vitamins, things to help her feel better." "Then why hide them? Why keep a secret log? Why does she get violently ill every time you feed her?" "That's not because of anything I'm doing." His voice rose, and I saw Mom flinch. "She's getting older. Her system is more sensitive. I'm trying to help her build up her strength." I pulled out my phone, pulling up the photos I'd taken that morning. "Then explain this. These dosages. These combinations. Some of these medications shouldn't be taken together. They cause exactly the symptoms she's been experiencing." Aaron's eyes darted to the phone screen, then away. "You don't know what you're looking at. You're not a doctor. Neither are you. But you work in a pharmaceutical warehouse, don't you? You have access to all sorts of medications. Easy enough to grab a few bottles here and there." "This is insane," he said, but his voice had lost some of its conviction. "Mom, tell him. Tell him I've been helping you." Mom sat very still on the couch, the blanket clutched in her hands. When she spoke, her voice was small, almost childlike. "Have you been making me sick, Aaron?" The question hung in the air like smoke. I watched my brother's face, saw him realize that the game had shifted, that he couldn't charm or deflect his way out of this moment. "Of course not," he said, but even he seemed to hear how hollow it sounded. "I love you, Mom. I would never hurt you." "Then why do I feel better when you're not around?" The words came out barely above a whisper, but they landed like a bomb. "Cooper asked me this morning, and I realized it's true. On the days you don't visit, I feel clearer, stronger. And on the days you do, especially after I eat what you bring, I feel terrible." "That's just coincidence," Aaron said quickly. "Correlation isn't causation. You taught us that, remember?" But I could see him unraveling, see the careful construction he'd built, starting to collapse. I pressed forward. "What was your plan, Aaron? Make her just sick enough that she'd need you, that she'd be dependent on you? Or were you going for something more permanent?" "Stop it," he hissed. "You don't know anything. I know you asked her about updating her will. I know you've been positioning yourself as the devoted son while I'm the absent one. I know you've been systematically poisoning our mother." The word hung there. Poisoning. I'd said it out loud, made it real, undeniable. Aaron's face twisted with rage and something else, something that looked almost like relief at no longer having to pretend. "You have no idea what it's like," he said, his voice low and bitter. "Perfect Cooper with his perfect job and his perfect life. You've always been the favorite. Always the one who could do no wrong. This isn't about me, I said, my voice steady despite the fury boiling inside me. This is about you hurting someone who loves you, who trusted you. She has money, Aaron said suddenly, the words bursting out like he couldn't contain them anymore. The apartment, the pension, the savings. And it's all going to you, isn't it? The reliable son. The one who actually made something of himself. There it was, the ugly truth laid bare. Money, jealousy. A toxic mixture of entitlement and resentment that had led him to this. So you decided to what? Kill her? Speed up your inheritance? My voice was shaking now, not with fear but with barely controlled rage. I wasn't trying to kill her, he said defensively. Just make her dependent. Make her see that she needed me. That I was the one taking care of her. Eventually, she'd want to change the will, make things fair. Fair, I repeated, the word tasting like ash. You think poisoning our mother is fair? Mom made a sound then, a broken sob that tore through both of us. Aaron's face crumpled, and for a moment I saw genuine remorse flicker across his features before the defensiveness slammed back down. I never meant for it to go this far, he said. It just got out of hand. Out of hand? I moved between him and Mom instinctively, protectively. You've been systematically poisoning her for months. That's not something that just happens. That's planned. Deliberate. Calculated. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration I'd seen 1,000 times growing up. What are you going to do? Call the cops? Turn in your own brother? What I'm going to do, I said, my voice dropping to something cold and hard, is make sure you never get near her again. And yes, I'm going to document everything. Every pill, every dose, every time you made her sick. And then I'm going to make sure there are consequences. You can't prove anything, he said. But there was desperation creeping into his voice now. Those pills could be anyone's. That notebook could be about anything. Your handwriting. Your fingerprints. Witnesses who saw you coming and going. Mom's testimony about what you've been giving her. I ticked off each point on my fingers. And I'm betting if we test those tablets in your soup, we'll find something interesting. I'd carefully placed the 2 white pills on the coffee table, and all 3 of us looked at them now. Such small things. Such innocent-looking things. Such deadly things. Aaron made a move toward the door, but I blocked his path. You're not leaving until we figure this out. You can't keep me here. Watch me. We stood there, 2 brothers who'd grown up in the same house, shared the same parents, carried the same DNA, and yet had somehow arrived at this moment of absolute division. I saw the Aaron I remembered, the older brother who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd defended me from bullies in middle school, who'd been my hero once upon a time. But that Aaron was gone, if he'd ever really existed. This person in front of me was a stranger wearing my brother's face. I need you to leave, Mom said suddenly, her voice stronger than I'd heard it all morning. Aaron, I need you to leave and not come back. He turned to her, and I saw genuine pain cross his features. Mom, please. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain, she said, tears streaming down her face. You've been hurting me. My own son has been hurting me. I can fix this, he said desperately. I can make it right. No, she said firmly. You can't. Cooper's right. You need to go, and you need to stay away. Something broke in Aaron then. His shoulders slumped, and the fight seemed to drain out of him. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. But the apology rang hollow, too little and far too late. I walked him to the door, my body tense, ready for any sudden moves. As he reached the threshold, he turned back one last time. I really didn't want it to be like this, he said. But it is, I replied. This is exactly what you made it. After he left, I triple-locked the door and immediately called my friend Kendall, who worked as a nurse at Greenfield Medical Center. I explained the situation in broad strokes and asked her to come over to check on Mom, to document her symptoms, to be another witness to what had been happening. Then I sat with Mom on the couch, and we both let ourselves feel the full weight of the betrayal. She cried, and I held her, and outside the window the city of Ashford Heights continued its normal rhythms, oblivious to the small tragedy unfolding in apartment 3C. In my pocket, my phone held evidence. Photos of medications and notebooks and messages. The beginning of a case, a record, proof of what my brother had done. But more than that, it held the burden of action. The responsibility of following through, of making sure this never happened again. Mom fell asleep eventually, exhausted from emotion and the lingering effects of whatever Aaron had been giving her. I stayed awake, my mind racing through next steps, contingencies, preparations. The battle wasn't over. In many ways it was just beginning. But for now, in this moment, Mom was safe, and I would make sure she stayed that way. Kendall Harper arrived within the hour, her medical bag slung over her shoulder and concern etched across her face. I'd known her since college, and over the years our friendship had deepened into the kind of trust where you could call at odd hours with impossible requests and know she'd show up without questions. "Thanks for coming," I said, letting her into the apartment. She gave me a quick, assessing look. "You sounded terrified on the phone. What's going on?" I led her to the living room where Mom was now awake, sitting up but still looking fragile and pale. As Kendall introduced herself and began a gentle examination, I laid out everything I'd discovered. The medications, the notebook, Aaron's behavior, the timeline of Mom's illness. With each detail, Kendall's expression grew more serious. She checked Mom's vital signs, her pupils, her reflexes, asked questions about symptoms, frequency, duration. Made notes in a small leather journal she always carried. Finally, she sat back and looked at me with an expression that confirmed my worst fears. "Her blood pressure is elevated, her heart rate is irregular, and she's showing signs of toxicity. Based on what you've told me and what I'm seeing, this is consistent with medication interference or overdose." She turned to Mom gently. "Mrs. Ellis, I think we should take you to the hospital for a full workup. Blood tests, toxicology screening, the works." Mom nodded weakly. "I want to know what he gave me. I need to know." 2 hours later, we sat in the emergency room at Greenfield Medical Center. The sterile smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils as nurses moved efficiently through the space, their shoes squeaking on the linoleum floors. They'd drawn blood, taken urine samples, hooked Mom up to monitors that beeped steadily, measuring her heartbeat and oxygen levels. While we waited for results, I pulled out my phone and started making calls. First to my boss, explaining I needed emergency family leave. Then to a lawyer Kendall had recommended, someone who specialized in elder abuse cases. Her name was Faith Gilbert. And when I explained the situation, her voice turned steely. "Document everything," she said. "Every medication, every dose, every symptom. Get the medical records from today. Save all communications with your brother. Don't delete anything, no matter how innocuous it seems. And whatever you do, don't confront him again without witnesses or legal representation present." "Too late for that last part," I admitted. "Then be smarter going forward. Men like your brother, when they're cornered, they become dangerous, unpredictable." Her words sent a chill through me, but I knew she was right. Aaron had spent months carefully executing his plan. Now that it was unraveling, there was no telling what he might do. The doctor, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair, came in holding a tablet. Dr. Simmons, according to her name badge. "Mrs. Ellis, we have your preliminary blood work back," she said, pulling up a chair. "Your levels of several substances are concerning. You have elevated antihistamines, benzodiazepines, and what appears to be traces of a sedative that shouldn't be in your system at all." "What does that mean?" Mom asked, her voice small. "It means someone has been giving you medications that, when combined, create the exact symptoms you've been experiencing. Dizziness, nausea, confusion, fatigue. Long-term exposure could lead to kidney damage, liver problems, and potentially worse." Mom's hand found mine, gripping it tightly. "How long until it's out of my system?" "With proper treatment and no further exposure, you should start feeling better within a few days. Full recovery could take weeks, depending on how long this has been going on." 6 months, I said quietly. "At least 6 months." Dr. Simmons' expression hardened. "Then we need to involve social services and likely law enforcement. This is a clear case of poisoning and elder abuse." Over the next several hours, a parade of people came through. A social worker who asked gentle but probing questions. A police detective named Victor Malone, who took my statement and confiscated the pill bottles and notebook I'd brought as evidence. Each conversation peeled back another layer of the horror, made it more real, more official, more irreversible. Detective Malone was in his 50s, with the weathered look of someone who'd seen too much human ugliness. But his voice was kind as he spoke with Mom, never pushing, always giving her space to process. "Mrs. Ellis, I know this is difficult," he said, "but I need to ask. Do you want to press charges against your son?" Mom looked at me, tears welling in her eyes again. "I don't know. He's still my son." "He poisoned you," I said, trying to keep my voice gentle but firm. "For months. He planned this. He executed it deliberately. And he only stopped because he got caught." "But he's family," she whispered. "Family doesn't do this to each other," Detective Malone said quietly. "Real family protects, loves, cares. What your son did was the opposite of all those things." It took another hour, but eventually, Mom nodded. "Yes, I want to press charges. I can't let him do this to someone else." Detective Malone gave her a respectful nod. "That took courage, ma'am. We'll start building the case immediately." By the time we left the hospital, it was late afternoon. The sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Mom had been given fluids, medications to help flush the toxins from her system, and a prescription for follow-up care. More importantly, she'd been given validation. Medical professionals confirming what had happened to her, authorities taking it seriously, systems mobilizing to protect her. We drove back to her apartment in silence. I'd already decided she wouldn't be staying there tonight, or any night, until we figured out security. Aaron had a key. He knew her routines. He'd proven he was willing to hurt her. "Pack a bag," I said as we entered the apartment. "You're staying with me until this is sorted out." She didn't argue. While she gathered clothes and toiletries, I walked through the apartment with new eyes, seeing it as a crime scene, a place where systematic abuse had occurred. I photographed everything: the kitchen where Aaron had prepared contaminated meals, the bathroom where he'd stored his arsenal of medications, the living room where Mom had suffered alone, trusting her son while he slowly poisoned her. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You've made a huge mistake. This isn't over." My blood ran cold. I showed it to Mom, who'd emerged from the bedroom with a small suitcase. "Is that him?" she asked, fear evident in her voice. "I don't know, but we're not staying to find out." I forwarded the message to Detective Malone, then helped Mom to my car. As we drove away from Ashford Heights toward my apartment in Brookhaven, I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Aaron following us. Back at my place, I settled Mom in my bedroom, insisting she take it while I'd sleep on the couch. She protested weakly but eventually relented, exhaustion winning out over propriety. While she rested, I sat at my kitchen table and began the systematic work Faith Gilbert had instructed. I created a timeline, starting 6 months ago, and working forward. Every visit from Aaron I could remember, or that Mom could recall. Every instance of illness, every symptom, cross-referenced with the dosages in his notebook. The pattern was undeniable, damning. On days when Aaron visited and brought food or gave her vitamins, Mom's symptoms spiked. On days when he was absent, she improved. I went through my phone, screenshotting every text exchange with Aaron. Most were mundane, ordinary sibling communication, but threaded through them were telltale signs. His insistence on being the one to manage Mom's medications. His defensiveness when I'd suggested taking her to a doctor. His subtle ways of isolating her from friends, convincing her she was too tired to volunteer, too confused to manage her own affairs. Kendall called to check in. "How is she?" "Resting, scared, heartbroken." "And you?" I rubbed my eyes, suddenly aware of how exhausted I was. I keep thinking about all the times I could have noticed. All the red flags I missed because I was too busy or too trusting or too willing to believe my brother had changed. "This isn't your fault, Cooper." Aaron made choices. Deliberate, calculated choices. The only person responsible for this is him. Intellectually, I knew she was right. Emotionally, the guilt sat heavy in my chest. I should have been more attentive. Should have questioned Aaron's sudden devotion. Should have noticed the correlation between his visits and Mom's decline. The detective said, "They're going to Aaron's apartment tomorrow with a warrant," I said. "Search for more medications, evidence of planning, financial documents showing motive." "Good." The more evidence, the stronger the case. After we hung up, I pulled up Aaron's social media profiles, something I rarely did. His posts painted the picture of a devoted son. Photos of him with mom, captions about family being everything, shares of articles about caring for aging parents. It was all performance, carefully curated deception. Every smile was a lie. Every expression of love was manipulation. I thought about the brother I'd known, or thought I'd known. The complexity of holding two truths simultaneously. That Aaron had once been someone I looked up to, and that Aaron was now someone I didn't recognize. Maybe both versions had always existed. Maybe I'd only ever seen the parts he wanted me to see. Around midnight, my phone rang. Detective Malone. Mr. Ellis, I wanted to update you. We executed the warrant on your brother's apartment. We found stockpiles of medications, some prescribed to other people, some with no labels at all. We also found research on his computer. Articles about lethal doses, about medications that cause specific symptoms, about how long it takes for toxins to leave the system. My stomach turned. He was researching how to do this, extensively. We also found financial documents. Your mother's bank statements, copies of insurance policies, a draft will that names him as primary beneficiary. This wasn't impulsive, Mr. Ellis. This was premeditated. What happens now? We're issuing a warrant for his arrest. We have enough to charge him with attempted murder, elder abuse, and fraud. We've flagged his vehicle, his known associates, his workplace. He won't get far. Attempted murder. The words landed like physical blows. My brother hadn't just been making mom sick. He'd been trying to kill her. Slowly, carefully, in a way that would look natural. I thanked the detective and ended the call. In my bedroom, I could hear mom's soft snoring, the first peaceful sleep she'd probably had in months. I thought about waking her to share the news, but decided it could wait until morning. Instead, I sat in the darkness of my living room, processing the full scope of what Aaron had done. The planning, the research, the execution. Every meal had been weaponized. Every vitamin had been poison. Every expression of care had been theater masking. Murder. And beneath my rage and horror, a question nagged. Had there been a moment when he could have stopped? A point where he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross? Or had he been this person all along, and I'd just been too blind to see it? My phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. You think you've won. You haven't. I always have a backup plan. This time, I didn't just forward it to Detective Malone. I called him directly. He's threatening us, I said. And I need to know, how dangerous is my brother? There was a pause. Mr. Ellis, based on what we've found, your brother is capable of significant harm. He's methodical, patient, and willing to hurt the people closest to him. Until we have him in custody, I need you to be extremely careful. Vary your routines. Don't go anywhere alone. Consider staying somewhere else if possible. After the call, I checked every lock on every door and window. I made sure my phone was fully charged. I positioned myself on the couch where I could see the front door. And I didn't sleep, not really, just drifted in and out of awareness, always listening for sounds that didn't belong. Aaron was still out there. And now he was cornered, exposed, with nothing left to lose. Morning came gray and cold, rain pattering against the windows of my Brookhaven apartment. Mom emerged from the bedroom looking marginally better. Some color returned to her cheeks, though her eyes still carried the weight of yesterday's revelations. I made breakfast, simple scrambled eggs and toast, and we ate in careful silence. Every few minutes, my phone would buzz with updates. Detective Malone confirming they were still searching for Aaron. Faith Gilbert sending over initial legal paperwork. Kendall checking in with medical follow-up instructions. He hasn't gone home, I told Mom, reading the latest message from the detective. They've had officers watching his apartment since last night. No sign of him. Mom's hands trembled around her coffee mug. Where would he go? I don't know. But the detective has alerts out everywhere. Banks, credit cards, known associates. He can't hide forever. Even as I said it, doubt gnawed at me. Aaron had proven himself capable of careful planning. Who's to say he hadn't prepared for this contingency? Set aside cash, arranged a safe house, planned an escape route? My phone rang. An unrecognized number with a local area code. I hesitated, then answered, putting it on speaker. Cooper. Aaron's voice, strained and angry. "We need to talk." Mom's face went white. I mouthed, "It's okay," to her while keeping my voice steady. "Where are you?" "Like I'd tell you that. You really called the cops? Your own brother? You poisoned our mother. What did you expect?" "I was helping her," he hissed. "You're too stupid to see it. She was getting old, confused. I was managing her decline, making it easier." "By trying to kill her?" "I wasn't trying to kill her." The words came out too loud, too defensive. I was positioning things, making sure that when the inevitable happened, I'd be taken care of. Is that so wrong, after everything I've sacrificed? What have you sacrificed, Aaron? What could possibly justify what you've done? You don't get it. You've never gotten it. You were always the favorite, always the one with potential. I've spent my whole life in your shadow, and I'm done. I'm done being invisible. I heard something in his voice that scared me more than his anger. A manic edge, a disconnection from reality. This wasn't someone who was going to surrender quietly. "Turn yourself in," I said. "Let's deal with this the right way." "The right way?" He laughed bitterly. "The right way is for you to convince Mom to drop the charges. Tell the cops it was all a misunderstanding, that she's old and confused and I was just trying to help." "That's not going to happen." "Then you're making a huge mistake." His voice dropped to something cold and menacing. "I know where you live, Cooper. I know your routines. I know your friends. You think you're safe because you went to the police? You're not." The line went dead. I immediately called Detective Malone, relaying the conversation. "He just threatened us. You need to find him. We're doing everything we can, Mr. Ellis. In the meantime, I'm sending a patrol car to your building. They'll maintain a presence outside. And I want you to consider relocating, at least temporarily." After the call, I looked at Mom. She was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. How did my son become this person? I had no answer for her. Instead, I held her hand and started making plans. We couldn't stay here. Aaron knew this address. He'd been to my apartment before, knew the layout, knew how to get in. We needed somewhere safe, somewhere unexpected. I called Kendall. "I need a favor. A big one. Name it. Can Mom and I stay with you for a few days? Aaron's threatening us, and the police haven't found him yet." "Of course. Come over whenever you're ready. I'll make up the guest room." Kendall lived in Westbridge, across town from both my place and Aaron's. It wasn't perfect, but it was safer than staying somewhere Aaron could predict. While Mom packed her few belongings again, I moved through my apartment gathering essentials. Clothes, laptops, chargers, important documents. As I worked, my mind churned through possibilities. Aaron was smart. He'd worked in pharmaceutical supply chain management before, getting fired 3 months ago, something he'd never mentioned to any of us. Detective Malone had uncovered that detail during the investigation. Aaron had been let go for inventory discrepancies, which now took on sinister new meaning. He'd probably been stealing medications, building his arsenal for months before even starting to poison Mom. The financial documents found in his apartment told a clear story. Gambling debts, maxed out credit cards, loans from questionable sources. Aaron wasn't just jealous of my stable life. He was desperate. And desperate people were dangerous. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Just an image this time. A photo of the outside of Kendall's building, taken from street level. Recently, based on the wet pavement visible in the shot. My blood turned to ice. He knew. Somehow, he already knew where we were going. I showed the image to Mom, whose hand flew to her mouth. How does he know? He must have been watching us. Followed us yesterday, or maybe he's tracking my phone somehow. I pulled up my settings, checking for unfamiliar apps or access permissions. Nothing obvious, but that didn't mean much. Aaron had always been tech-savvy. I called Kendall immediately. "Change of plans. Don't go home. Aaron's watching your building." "What? How?" "I don't know, but he just sent me a photo of it. Can you meet us somewhere public? Somewhere with cameras and people?" We agreed on a coffee shop in the downtown district. A busy place with large windows and constant foot traffic. I bundled Mom into my car, checking every shadow, every parked vehicle, every face on the street as we drove. The rain had intensified, turning the world into a gray blur beyond the windshield. At the coffee shop, Kendall was already waiting, her face tight with concern. We huddled in a corner booth, speaking in low voices while rain drummed against the windows. "This is insane," Kendall said. "How is he tracking you?" "I don't know, but we need to. Assume he can find us anywhere." I turned to Mom. "I'm so sorry. I thought getting the police involved would make you safer, but it's only escalated things." "This isn't your fault," she said firmly, though her hands shook as she lifted her coffee cup. "Aaron made his choices. He's responsible for this." My phone rang. Detective Malone. "Mr. Ellis, we got a hit on your brother's credit card. Gas station on the edge of Fairmont, about 40 minutes from you. We have units responding." "He sent me a photo," I said, "of my friend's building. He's been following us. Do you still have the image? Send it to me immediately. We'll pull security footage from the area, see if we can spot his vehicle." After forwarding the photo, I sat back and tried to think strategically. Aaron was playing a game, trying to intimidate us, make us feel vulnerable. But he was also making mistakes. Using his credit card, sending threatening messages. Each action left a digital trail, gave the police more to work with. "He's spiraling," Kendall observed, reading my expression. "Getting sloppy. Which makes him more dangerous," I replied. "A cornered animal." We spent the next hour strategizing. Kendall suggested a hotel under her name, something Aaron couldn't trace to any of us. Faith Gilbert called with updates on the legal proceedings, confirming the charges had been formally filed. The district attorney was treating it as a major case given the premeditation and the vulnerability of the victim. "He's looking at serious prison time," Faith said. 20 years, minimum, if convicted on all counts. That's if he doesn't take a plea deal." "What kind of plea deal?" "Depends. If he cooperates, shows remorse, agrees to psychiatric evaluation, they might reduce it to 15 years. But given the evidence, I don't see why they'd offer much leniency." 20 years. I tried to imagine Aaron behind bars for 2 decades. Tried to reconcile that image with the brother who'd taught me to throw a baseball, who'd defended me from neighborhood bullies, who'd once been my hero. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. Around midday, Detective Malone called again. We found his car, abandoned at the gas station. He's switched vehicles, or he's on foot. We're expanding the search, checking bus stations, rental car agencies, anywhere he might have gone. So he could be anywhere. Unfortunately, yes. But Mr. Ellis, he's running out of options. No money, no transportation, no support system. It's only a matter of time. Time. That was the variable I couldn't control. How much time before Aaron did something desperate? How much time before his threats escalated into action? We checked into a hotel near the financial district under Kendall's name. She paid cash for the room, an extra layer of anonymity. The room was small but clean, with 2 double beds and a view of the rain-soaked city. Mom collapsed onto one bed immediately, the stress and lingering effects of the poisoning catching up with her. While she slept, Kendall and I sat by the window, watching the street below. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For everything. For helping. For putting yourself at risk. You'd do the same for me." She paused. "Do you think he'll actually try something? Come after you directly?" "I don't know. The Aaron I knew wouldn't. But I don't know who my brother is anymore." As evening fell, the rain continued its steady assault on the city. My phone buzzed periodically with updates, more sightings, all unconfirmed, more leads, all dead ends. Aaron had vanished into the urban sprawl, a ghost haunting the edges of our lives. Around 9, Mom woke up, disoriented. At first, then remembering where we were and why. We ordered room service, ate mechanically, the food tasteless despite probably being fine. Every sound in the hallway made us tense. Every notification on my phone sparked anxiety. "I can't live like this," Mom said finally. "Hiding, running, afraid of my own son." "It's temporary," I assured her, though I wasn't sure I believed it. "Once they catch him, once he's in custody, things will get better." "Will they?" She looked at me with such profound sadness. "Even when he's locked up, I'll know what he's capable of. I'll know that my son tried to murder me. How do you come back from that?" I had no answer. Some betrayals were too deep, cut too close to the bone. The trust between mother and son, supposedly unbreakable, had shattered into pieces too small to ever reassemble. My phone lit up. Another message from the unknown number. You can't hide forever. I'll find you. And when I do, we'll finish this. I showed it to Kendall, who immediately called Detective Malone. While she relayed the threat, I watched the rain and wondered where Aaron was at this moment. What he was thinking. Whether any part of him regretted what he'd done, or if he was too far gone for remorse. The night stretched ahead of us, long and uncertain. Somewhere out there, my brother was planning his next move. And all we could do was wait, watch, and hope that the police found him before he found us. The next morning brought no relief, only more rain and mounting tension. Detective Malone arrived at our hotel room with another officer, a young woman named Officer Chen who specialized in witness protection protocols. They sat across from us in the cramped room, their presence both comforting and terrifying in what it represented. We've traced the messages, Malone said. Your brother's using burner phones, buying them with cash at different locations. He's being careful, but he's also making himself visible. We have footage from 3 different stores. He showed us grainy security camera images on his tablet. Aaron, looking disheveled and paranoid, glancing around constantly, his face partially obscured by a hood. He looked nothing like the confident, smirking brother who'd walked into Mom's apartment days ago. He's desperate, Officer Chen observed. That works in our favor. Desperate people make mistakes. What's our next move? I asked. We want to set up a controlled contact, Malone explained. Have you call him, try to arrange a meeting. Somewhere public where we can apprehend him safely. Mom's face went pale. You want to use us as bait? With full protection, Officer Chen assured her. Undercover officers, surveillance, backup units. You'd never be in actual danger. I looked at Mom, saw the fear in her eyes, but also something else. Determination. She'd been victimized for months, made to feel weak and confused. This was a chance to reclaim some agency. I'll do it, she said quietly. If it means ending this. We spent the next hour planning. I would call Aaron, tell him Mom wanted to talk, to understand why he'd done it. We'd suggest meeting at Riverside Park, a large public space with multiple entry points, perfect for police positioning. The call would be recorded, every word potentially used as evidence. When the moment came, my hands shook as I dialed. Aaron answered on the second ring. Finally seeing reason? His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. Mom wants to talk to you. Face to face. No police, no lawyers. Just family. Silence stretched across the line. I could almost hear him thinking, calculating odds, weighing risks. This is a trap, he said finally. It's not. She just wants to understand. You're still her son, Aaron. She deserves answers. More silence. Then, Riverside Park. Tomorrow at noon, come alone, both of you. If I see anyone else, any sign of cops, I disappear and you'll never find me. We'll be there. After he hung up, Detective Malone nodded approvingly. Good work. We'll have the entire area covered. He won't see us, but we'll be ready. The rest of the day was spent in preparation. Faith Gilbert arrived to review legal implications, ensuring everything we were doing followed proper procedure. Kendall helped Mom practice what she'd say, how she'd keep Aaron talking long enough for police to move in. I reviewed maps of the park with Detective Malone, identifying sightlines, escape routes, potential complications. He's smart, I warned. He'll be looking for traps. We're smarter, Malone replied confidently. And we have resources he doesn't. That night, lying in the dark hotel room, listening to Mom's restless sleep, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. All the small decisions, the overlooked warning signs, the misplaced trust. Tomorrow would bring resolution, one way or another. Aaron would be captured, or he'd slip away and we'd be back to living in fear. I pulled out my phone and looked at old photos. Aaron and me as kids, grinning at the camera. Family vacations, holiday dinners, ordinary moments from a life that seemed impossibly distant now. Had there been signs even then? Had the seeds of what he'd become been visible if I'd known to look? Morning came too quickly. We dressed carefully, Mom in comfortable clothes that wouldn't restrict movement if things went wrong. I wore a jacket with a concealed microphone, back up to the phone recording. Detective Malone briefed us one final time in the hotel parking lot. Remember, keep him talking. Don't make any sudden moves. Trust that we're there, even if you can't see us. As we drove toward Riverside Park, the rain had finally stopped, leaving the city washed clean and gleaming under weak sunlight. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. "Whatever happens," she said, "I'm proud of you. For protecting me. For being strong when I couldn't be. We're going to get through this," I promised. Together. The park came into view, sprawling and green, dotted with joggers and families despite the damp ground. Somewhere in that peaceful scene, my brother waited. And surrounding us, invisible but present, a net was closing. Riverside Park stretched before us, deceptively peaceful in the midday light. Families occupied picnic tables, joggers traced the winding paths, and children played on equipment still damp from yesterday's rain. Somewhere in this ordinary scene, Aaron waited. We walked slowly toward the designated meeting spot, a pavilion near the center of the park. My heart hammered against my ribs, adrenaline sharpening every sense. I scanned faces, looking for my brother, while trying to spot the undercover officers I knew were positioned throughout the area. Mom walked beside me, her hand gripping my arm tightly. She'd been quiet during the drive, processing what was about to happen, confronting the son who'd tried to kill her. "There," she whispered. Aaron sat alone at a picnic table beneath the pavilion, his back to a support beam, positioned so he could see all approaches. Even from a distance, I could see the change in him. His clothes were rumpled, his face unshaven, his eyes darting constantly. This wasn't the confident manipulator from Mom's apartment. This was someone cornered and desperate. We approached slowly. Aaron watched us come, his expression unreadable. When we were close enough, he spoke. "Stop there. Not too close." We halted about 10 feet away. Close enough to talk, far enough that he felt safe. "Hi, Aaron," Mom said, her voice remarkably steady. "You actually came." He sounded almost surprised. "No police?" "Just us," I lied. "Like you asked." His eyes narrowed, scanning the park again. "I don't believe you. This is a setup." "It's not," Mom said. "I just want to understand. Why did you do it? Why did you hurt me?" Something flickered across Aaron's face. Pain, maybe, or regret. But it hardened quickly into defensiveness. "I was trying to help," he said. "You were getting old, declining. I was managing it, making sure you'd be taken care of." "By poisoning me?" Mom's voice cracked. "That's not help, Aaron. That's murder." "I wasn't trying to kill you." The words burst out, too loud. Several nearby park-goers glanced our way. Aaron lowered his voice. "I just wanted you to need me. To see that I was the one taking care of you while Cooper was off living his perfect life." "So this was about jealousy?" I couldn't keep the anger from my voice. "About competing with me?" "You don't understand what it's like," Aaron hissed. "Always being compared to you. Always falling short. I needed something that was mine. Mom's trust, her gratitude, eventually her estate. I deserved that." "You deserved nothing," Mom said firmly. "I loved you both equally. But love isn't about ownership or inheritance. It's about care, real care. Not whatever twisted version you created." Aaron's face contorted with anger. "You're going to lecture me about care? After choosing him over me my whole life?" "I never chose anyone over anyone," Mom said, tears streaming down her face now. "But you made your choices, Aaron. You chose to hurt me, to betray my trust, and now you have to face the consequences." I saw it then, the moment Aaron realized this was indeed a trap. His eyes widened, his body tensed, and he started to rise from the picnic table. "Aaron, don't run," I said quickly. "There's nowhere to go." But he was already moving, backing away from the pavilion, looking for an escape route. That's when Detective Malone and 4 other officers emerged from positions around the park, weapons drawn but pointed down. "Aaron Ellis, stop right there," Malone called out. "You're under arrest." For a moment, everything froze. Aaron stood there, trapped, his eyes wild. I thought he might surrender. Instead, he bolted. What followed happened in seconds but felt like hours. Aaron ran toward the tree line, officers pursuing. Mom screamed his name. I started after them instinctively before Malone's partner held me back. "Let them handle it," she said firmly. We watched as Aaron crashed through underbrush, the officers closing in from multiple angles. He didn't get far. 20 yards into the trees, 2 officers tackled him to the ground. His struggles were brief before they had him in handcuffs. As they led him back toward the pavilion, Aaron looked directly at Mom. Whatever he saw in her face, the disappointment, the sadness, the relief, it broke something in him. His shoulders slumped and he stopped struggling entirely. "I'm sorry," he said as they walked him past us. "Mom, I'm sorry." But the apology came too late, meant too little. Mom turned away, unable to look at him. 3 weeks later, I sat in Faith Gilbert's office, reviewing the final legal documents. Aaron had accepted a plea deal, 15 years with possibility of parole after 10, in exchange for a full confession and agreement to undergo psychiatric evaluation. The trial would be brief, mostly a formality to formalize the agreement. "How's your mother handling everything?" Faith asked. "Better," I said. Her toxicology results came back clean last week. No more traces of the medications Aaron gave her. Physically, she's recovering. And emotionally? I thought about Mom in therapy sessions, working through the betrayal with a counselor who specialized in family trauma. About the way she'd packed up her apartment in Ashford Heights and moved into a senior community in Westbridge, closer to Kendall and me, somewhere Aaron had never been. "She's getting there," I said finally. "Some days are harder than others." The truth was more complicated. Mom had good days where she seemed almost like her old self, laughing at jokes, planning activities with new friends at her community. Then there were hard days where the weight of what Aaron had done pressed down on her, where she questioned everything about how she'd raised him, what she'd missed, what she could have done differently. "None of this was your fault," I'd told her repeatedly. "Aaron made his choices." "But he's still my son," she'd reply. "That doesn't just disappear." I'd learned that betrayal doesn't have a clean resolution. It's not something you get over so much as something you learn to carry. Mom would always be a mother who'd been poisoned by her son. That reality couldn't be erased or overcome, only integrated into the story of who she was. Detective Malone had closed the case with commendations for everyone involved. The evidence had been overwhelming. The medications, the notebook, Aaron's confessions during interrogation, the research on his computer. The prosecution called it one of the most clear-cut cases of attempted murder they'd seen. I'd visited Aaron once in jail, against my better judgment but unable to resist the need for closure. He'd looked small in his orange jumpsuit, diminished. "I really am sorry," he'd said through the plexiglass barrier. "I got lost somewhere. Let the resentment eat me alive until I couldn't see straight anymore." "That's not an excuse," I'd replied. "I know. But it's an explanation. For what it's worth." It wasn't worth much, but it was something, a small piece of understanding in a situation that defied understanding. Now, leaving Faith's office, I drove to Mom's new place. She was in the common area, playing cards with other residents, looking healthier than she had in months. When she saw me, her face lit up with genuine joy. "Cooper, I wasn't expecting you today. Wanted to surprise you. How are you feeling?" "Good. Really good, actually." She squeezed my hand. "I'm starting to feel like myself again." We walked through her community's garden, past flowering plants, and residents tending small plots. Mom had signed up for a garden space, planting vegetables for the spring. "I've been thinking," she said, "about writing Aaron. Not to forgive him, but to try to understand. For my own peace. Do you think that's wise?" "I don't know. But I can't carry this anger forever. It's too heavy." I understood what she meant. The rage I'd felt in those first days had settled into something else. Not acceptance, but acknowledgement. Aaron had done terrible things. He would face consequences. And somehow, we would move forward. That evening, back in my apartment, I looked at the blue cloth Mom had given me before Aaron's arrest. She'd insisted I keep it, a reminder of what we'd survived together. Its faded fabric represented resilience, the ability to endure even when everything seemed broken. My phone buzzed with a message from Kendall. "Dinner this weekend? Mom too?" My treat. I smiled and typed back. "Sounds perfect." Life was reassembling itself, different than before but still meaningful. Mom was safe. Aaron was incarcerated. Justice had been served. The scars remained, but we were healing. Outside my window, Brookhaven sparkled with evening lights. Somewhere in those lights were other families, other struggles, other betrayals, and reconciliations. Our story wasn't unique, just deeply personal, I thought about the night Mom had called me, dizzy and nauseous, asking for help. How that moment had unraveled everything, exposing truths we'd all been avoiding. Sometimes, the worst moments become turning points, forcing necessary reckonings. Cooper Ellis looked out at the city lights, the blue cloth resting on his desk, and allowed himself to feel what he'd been holding back for weeks: hope. Not that everything would return to how it was, but that something new could be built from the ruins. Mom was alive, getting stronger every day. That was enough. That had to be enough. And somehow, it was. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss any upload from us.